Hey, good morning. Today is our Monday morning training. It is Monday, February 5th. And today we're just going to be talking about keeping things simple. That's something that I've really just kind of always been about is just keeping it simple, not really having to focus on like 30 different carriers that all do the same thing or at least offer the same sort of products. To me, I think it can really overcomplicate things, especially for a brand new agent when they get in the business and right away people are wanting to get them contracted with 30 different companies that really pretty much all do the same thing. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about that. And I mean, my background too. I mean, I've primarily focused on one company at a time, all the way up until about a year and a half ago, maybe a little less than a year and a half ago. But I've always just been about keeping it simple. You know, I've done very well in the business, just kind of focusing on one company at a time. I have learned over the last year or so that it is good to have a few other options as well, but I don't feel like we have to have every single company, every single carrier that's available out there. So I have Chris with me today. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing?
Good morning. Live and in person. Excited to talk about keeping it simple.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And feel free to anybody who has any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to put them in the question box or comment box, and we'd be more than happy to get to those. So just some benefits to keeping it simple, in my opinion. For one thing, I think that there's less of a learning curve. Like I mentioned, I think that when an agent just gets in the business and they're wanting to start writing business and they get going with an organization that wants to contract them with 15, 20 different companies. I mean, it can be very confusing. I think it's hard enough to learn underwriting for one or two companies. So I think that it could overcomplicate an agent. I think it could overwhelm an agent. I think even like all these different processes, all these different e-apps that are out there, I think, well, I don't know. I don't feel like it looks really good either if you're in a house and you're stumbling around because you can't figure out how to access certain things. You want to keep things smooth. And the best way to do that is by keeping it simple. So, uh, would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I think you need to make sure you're writing stuff down too. Like when you onboard a new carrier, if you were or do, make sure you save in your phone, in Notability, on your iPad, the website, how to log in, what your password is, like the simple stuff. Like you shouldn't have to ask your upline what the website is for the e-application. Some of that stuff's really on you to figure out. But as you keep your business simple, it's less confusing on how to get in and do what you need to do.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, let's see. We were got all these different buttons here. Hold on. Where are we at?
That was a new button.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here.
While we're pushing buttons today, if there's a
Yeah.
carrier you guys like that you think would be worth mentioning, put it in the comment section below on however you're watching. Tell us why you like it, what they do well for you. I think we can all learn together, and sharing and interacting with the training is part of the fun.
Exactly. Here we go. Get to know the carriers better. I think that you know, one thing too, you start to develop relationships with a lot of the different carriers. And I think that it really makes a difference. You get to know people even at the home office. They see your name a lot. It's real easy, maybe even easier to get a hold of people. I mean, I've dealt with some carriers too, where you write a lot of business. I mean, you might be able to just get the direct line even to some of the people that you need to talk to, where you don't have to sit on hold for 20 minutes. So just little things like that, I think. And like I said, what do you think, Chris? Like we talked about, kind of getting to know the carriers a little bit better and learning their processes rather than writing with 30 different companies.
Yeah, if you should go into a home looking to write one company until proven that you can't. Whatever that one company is, that's your mindset. And when you start to have that mindset of working with one company until you can't, for whatever reason it might be, you learn their product better, you learn their process better, you know their back office better. You learn all the things that have to come into play to keep the business on the books. Because anyone could submit an application with any carrier, but if it doesn't get issued, it was a waste of your time. If you don't know how to conserve it, you're going to waste your time. Like, keeping it simple means you end up learning the product and the process and the carrier sometimes better than themselves.
Well, and every company is just a little bit different with just some little things like, let's say that you have a client that maybe they want to make a change to their policy. Maybe they need to change their banking. Maybe they want to change their beneficiaries. There's different processes. There's some companies where you can't just call yourself. You have to get the client on the phone with you. Others, they don't really care as much, where the agent can still handle a lot of those little things. But I think it's good to kind of know even those little things like that. So, it's going to save you time too. You don't want to have to call into a company, wait 15 minutes on hold, and for them to come back and say, "Do you have the client on the line?" And if
Yeah.
you can't, and then if you can't get a hold of your client, then you just wasted 20, 30 minutes when you could have just waited and called the person when they were available. So, like I said, every company's a little bit different with those sort of things, but it's good to kind of learn those little internal things that can be different amongst the different carriers. Uh, And it's just, to me, I think it's easier to keep track of your business when you're not writing business all over the place, when you're just kind of focusing on a few. Easier to maybe manage your production. Uh, and one of the bullet points on here towards the bottom we'll get to, just the little incentives too. Different contests that different carriers have. Um, Easier to deal with chargebacks. I think that, when you're writing business with 10 different companies and you get hit with a chargeback with one of those companies, well, it's like you got to write a piece of business with that company just to clear up that chargeback. Where if if they were like a primary company, you would already have a lot in the pipeline where you wouldn't really have to worry about it. You'd probably already have even some renewals established at some point that are built up that are going to eliminate a lot of chargebacks and things like that. So, yeah, when you're writing all over the place, you get hit with a chargeback, it makes it a lot harder to make money moving forward. What if you get hit with 3 chargebacks with 3 different companies all at one time? And then you're out there that week just having to focus on that one company just to pay some debt back, which
Yeah,
is which is also no fun.
no, chargeback avoidance is an extremely dangerous thing, and it's very difficult to avoid. Like, even I've caught myself thinking, well, I think I'm negative with that carrier. I'm going to write somebody else. It's not going to go away. Debt does not go away. It only goes uphill, and then it creates more trouble. You do not want to be terminated by a carrier because of debt. It's only going to create more hassle for you repaying the debt. It just, if when you're focusing on 3 companies, you're not going to be in debt to any particular company. When I was just me, myself, and I, personal producer, I wrote a boatload of old Transmerica, and I would get paid every month, paid on draft-ish something. And I would see the monthly commission statement come through, and there'd be, I don't know, a few $1,000s of deposits, but also a few $100s of chargebacks. And honestly, I didn't care. Like, I'm like, oh, good. That one's charged back. It's off the record. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's gone. And it was having all of my business focused in that one direction made chargebacks less of an issue. I think people forget as well, Adam, you don't have to have every carrier on a 9-month full bore advance. Yes, maybe you have 3 companies you do a majority of your business with, but maybe one day the American Continental product is just the right fit and you've got it. You want to write it, do the right thing for the client. You could have it on as earned, a 6-month advance, a 3-month advance. Every single product you have doesn't need a full bore 9-month advance built in to it as well.
In the as earned business, if you write enough of it really does start to add up. But I think too, it will also keep an agent maybe that needs that advance to just stay focused on those 3 main
Mhm.
carriers that they know that they should be using. And then everything else, well, when you need to write it, go ahead and write it, but you're just going to get paid as earned on it. So, it's better than nothing. But yeah, I mean, heck, that as earned business can add up as well. There's some agents out there that just prefer to be on as earned. But me personally, I just know with the business and the expense that's involved when it comes to leads and kind of having to keep going with that, I think it's kind of difficult to be strictly on a as earned unless you're just writing business here and there and you're not purchasing leads.
Yeah.
Let's see. And better persistency kind of leads right into what we just talked about with the chargebacks. You're going to have better persistency with those carriers because you're giving those 3 carriers a much better mix of business. You're not just strictly writing these little niches with each company. And I mean, that's another thing too, that the carriers out there, they do have some different niches. They don't want agents to strictly use them because of those niches. They want a good quality mix of business. They want all of it. I mean, they want your preferred, they want your standard, they want your modified. I mean, they really do want all of it. But they do understand that there are so many different options available out there for the agents. Again, I think keeping it simple and only writing that niche business though with certain places that really can hurt when it comes to persistency. If you're writing just all your modify with one company, that's not good quality business that's going to stay on the books. I mean, I know that there's companies out there that have told me that they're not even profitable on their modified business, that the only reason they have the modified offerings is so agents will write their other business with them too. So yeah, I mean, it's not great business. They don't want you just writing that with them or just your credit and debit and direct express and all that stuff with like the one carrier. You got to give these places a good mix of business, but that's also going to help with your persistency and keeping that business on the books.
I heard a phrase once that I think is valuable when you talk about picking your lead company, leading with that company until proven for some reason that you can't, is treat it like you own it. Like treat it like it's your insurance company and you wouldn't do that to yourself. So why are you doing it to them? Treat it similar to the 3-legged stool analogy. What's best for you, what's best for the carrier, and what's best for the client. You have to find that balance so that the product and the company is sustainable. Like if you just place garbage business with a product, after a certain amount of time, it's going to come off the market. And that's just completely inconvenient. Nobody wants to deal with that. It happens. It's not completely avoidable, but there's nothing more inconvenient than a whole product or a carrier coming off the market in those kind of situations.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I like that you mentioned that, all parties involved have to win. If you like a product, well, for one thing, you got to do the right thing. You got to write that business the right way. If you want that product to stick around, we sometimes fall in love with a product and everything goes good, but if people abuse it, it goes away. It's not there anymore. And then we got to look for other options. So yeah, all parties have to win. The agent, the client, and the carriers that we're doing our business with. Great
Absolutely.
point. And a much better chance of making the different company conventions. Talked a little bit about that, Chris. You have your call on Friday morning that I'm involved with, and I talked a little bit about that. I mean, I think that that's a good goal for new agents is to focus on writing enough business to make a company convention. It puts you on a trip with some very successful people. You're gonna not only do you get to go to places that you probably would never even have the ability or opportunity to be able to go to, but and some of these places are just awesome, just so luxurious. I mean, I've been places all over the world, and I know I never would have even taken those trips had I not been with these companies and writing the business. So, but you learn a lot on these trips too. You're surrounded by other successful people, maybe people that, maybe you're a new agent, but you want to start building. Maybe you want to start growing. Heck, there's going to be lots of people like that on the trips that are building and growing, that are willing to help you and talk to you at least, and teach you how to do stuff the right way. That's really how I got into doing what I do. I mean, I started as a personal producer. Um, I met a bunch of people on one of the company conventions I was on that I learned were making a heck of a lot more money than I was, and I wanted to figure out what they were doing that I wasn't. And basically, they were doing what they were doing when it came to writing business, but then they were teaching others how to do it as well, just kind of replicating themselves. So, I mean, that's why we do what we do. That's why I have my trainings every week. I really want to help agents grow and learn how to do this the right way. And I've done pretty well in the business. So, my ultimate goal is just to kind of replicate myself. But yeah, you're going to learn a lot by going on these different company conventions and meeting a lot of other successful people that are in the industry.
Yeah, just the simple fact that if you qualified for, let's just say, a carrier trip, they're typically 80 to 100,000 in premium. That means you wrote a boatload of business just that year. Like just in that one product, you wrote more business than most in the industry and made more money than most in America. Pretty cool. And then your persistency has to be a certain level. So you must have been writing good business and you must have been focusing on that carrier to qualify for that trip. I attended a Transamerica trip to Hawaii. Didn't make an AmAm trip because of COVID, and attended 2 KSKJ trips. They're attainable, and it requires you to focus on that company. And then when you achieve that, it gives you something to think about outside of your simple weekly goal or your monthly goal or paying this week's bills. It gives you something over the course of a large period of time to really aim and obtain. And anyone can do it. Like, it really doesn't require superhero kind of skills. It is already February. So if this is important to you, you should have started last month. But anyone that's writing business on a full-time basis, that's buying leads every week, they can qualify for a trip, and they deserve to.
Yeah, I mean, right now, heck, we're just at the beginning of February. Looking at the requirements for what most of the different companies want to make a trip. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, anybody who's full time that is out there working regularly, there's no reason that they can't make these trips. 80,000, 90,000 in
Mhm.
premium to make a trip, I think is very, very doable. And I think
Adam,
there's even some out there that are even a little bit less than that.
yeah, Adam, I think Cincinnati Equitable's trip is like 35,000 or 40.
Wow.
Like, it's a fun little mom and pop company, not in a whole lot of states. But give me a second to find this for the fun of it. It, according to the flyer, yep, to qualify for the Cincinnati Equitable trip, you must write a mere $40,000 in production on an instant decision e-application carrier with a pretty good product. 40,000.
Yeah, not a bad deal. Yeah, we haven't really talked about them a whole lot. I know, well, me personally, they're not in Illinois. I do have a few agents that are doing some business with them,
Mhm.
but yeah, maybe that's one maybe in the future that we could talk maybe a little bit further in detail about.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyways, what we're gonna do, Chris and I, we're gonna break down a few different carriers today, where where our focus is on keeping it simple. And basically what I did, I put together two different groups of carriers, three with one, three with the other. Um, Kind of like what we were talking about. Not maybe people have, every company is a little bit different. Maybe people have had an experience with one. Maybe they don't want to deal with one over the other, or whatever. People just kind of have their preferences. Actually, same thing. You get to know people at the home office, everything else. There's just maybe some companies that you like doing business with more than others. So that's why we did two separate groups. And then we're just going to kind of break them down and kind of explain why, with just those three carriers alone, is enough, where you can write a lot of business. You're not going to have to walk away from anything, and do pretty well, just keeping it simple, emptying out that briefcase and just kind of focusing on those three companies. So the first group of carriers that we have here, this would be the simple option number one. We have American Amicable, we have Transamerica, and then we have Great Western. And I will start with American Amicable. That is again, I kind of look at them as almost like a lead carrier. They're one that I like to do a lot of business with. They've been very helpful, worked with them quite a bit in the past. Um, Still playing around with all these buttons, trying to see which one looks best here.
All
That one's
these,
pretty good.
it's like a news broadcast now. Do, do, do,
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, you're right. Hey, what the heck? It's kind of fun figuring all this stuff out. So, American Amicable, I like them because, well, I mean, they accept a good amount of business. They have multiple different products available. Even if you're focusing on final expense, every once in a while you're going to run into a situation where maybe you need a different product. Maybe you need a term policy to write, and they have simplified issue final expense. They have simplified issue term. They have simplified issue universal life. And again, we also get those instant decisions. Uh, so their final expense, I mean, they go 0 to 85 on their final expense. They also do have the true Social Security billing that I like. You can set the payment up for the first, the third, the second, third, or fourth Wednesday. It's always going to fall on those dates. If the first falls on a Saturday, they're going to draft on the business day prior, when we know our clients receive their Social Security. So we're not waiting until after the weekend for them to draft. But yeah, overall, you know what, too, with their e-app and the instant decision, one thing that I really like is the fact that let's just say you write one and it comes back. They call it return of premium. Industry term would be modified, meaning that they're not going to be fully covered for the first couple of years. Well, let's say that you did your job, you went through all the different medications with the client, and you feel pretty confident that your client is being upfront and honest with you, that they're not trying to hide anything from you. And you're really surprised that it went from a preferred to a return of premium, or like I said, like a modified. Uh, well, you can actually contest the decision with them. But not only that, they show you the medications that pop up, so you can see the reasoning behind the decision. So not only do you have that ability to be able to contest that decision and still may be able to win and get that person first day coverage, if there's a medication that popped up and you know for sure that there's nothing you're going to be able to do to push that to a first day coverage with American Amicable, that's just how it's going to be, you at least know the reasoning behind that decision. If you have another option, and maybe that second or third option that we're going to go through, well, at least you know the reasoning behind that decision. It can be very difficult if you write an app with a company and it goes from a preferred to a modified, and you don't know the reasoning behind the decision. You're just going to be sitting around playing guessing games, trying to figure out the reasoning, and just one company after another trying to apply to get that person covered if you're really trying to get them first day coverage. And to me, that's kind of tough because we don't really know the reasoning behind the decision. So that's just something that I really like with them, that they do that they let you know the reasoning behind the decision. If you got to switch gears and move on to another company, well, that's fine. At least you know the reasoning why.
I made a quick note here.
Yeah.
As much as I love American Amicable, I think it's important for whoever's watching, whoever's sharing, whoever's commenting, whoever's liking this so other people can see it. Remember, no one company makes or breaks your career. We're going to go over a couple real great companies and the products they have and why we like them, but no one company is going to make your career or break it. Maybe you wake up one day and you've lost a carrier for some silly reason. Your business isn't over. Maybe this one particular company is not in your state. Not yet. Not going to change your success or your failure ratio. This is great information, but you cannot think to yourself, man, if I only had this, everything would be different. It's not true.
Yeah, very, very good. Anything else that you'd want to add about American Amicable and maybe reasonings why? I know, like you mentioned, you made a company convention with them, so I know that you've done a fair amount of business with them in the past.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd want to add? Experiences, products that you like? Anything that you'd want to add to the conversation?
So the fact that you can write in a note to the underwriter is very valuable, but they're not going to say that Donepezil is for a tummy ache. It's not how that works. You can explain a multi-use medicine, maybe why they take this or that, maybe that they have asthma and not COPD, but you have to be realistic. They're not going to overturn something that's willfully not what they take. They're not going to take congestive heart failure just because you said it was not congestive heart failure. So there is some level of understanding to that as well. And I really enjoyed that they lump sum deposit your monthly renewals. I know it might sound silly to some, but I like getting that lump sum deposit on the first business day of the month because that's typically when you have to pay a lot of your big bills. So if you can do a lot of business with American Amicable, you build up that monthly deposit. For all you know, you could be paying your rent or your mortgage just off your back end income.
Yeah, I really do like getting that renewal at the beginning of the month. I mean, I guess it's really not much different if you're getting a bunch of small deposits throughout the month. It's going to equal that one big deposit. But personally, I don't know. I just kind of like getting that big lump sum all at once rather than a bunch of little small deposits throughout the month.
Yeah, gives you something to work up and to build up too.
Yeah, most definitely. So then, let's see. Our next carrier. What's going on with all these buttons today? There we go. Transamerica. No, Transamerica, I haven't really done a ton of business with. Some things that I do like about them. I mean, they do accept credit, debit, direct express, where a lot of other companies don't. Seems like the way, and you probably know about this a little bit more than me, Chris. It seems like their underwriting, maybe a little bit different, the way that they run their underwriting. Seems like their app for final expense, even. I mean, I've seen where like congestive heart failure, maybe even in some scenarios, could go. Am I right? Congestive heart failure? Or is that one that's always going to be a modified?
Yeah, it could potentially go standard. They have something called an activity credit. An activity credit is if you're doing activities, not activities of daily living, like activities beyond that, cleaning your house, going outside, walking your dog, physical exercise, gardening, that kind of stuff. If you're physically active 4, 5, 6 days a week, they could take a certain condition and bump it up a level. It's not every condition. I can't quote them all right now, but certain conditions that might have gone modified go standard, might go standard, go preferred. And while the underwriting isn't super quick, instant decision like that, there's a lot of advantages to this company when you learn it really, really well. And when we're talking about different ways to keep your business simple, why I said, Adam, we should talk Transamerica is because it's 45 to 85, preferred, standard, modified, direct express, bank draft business. Like it can really do a lot of things once you learn how to use it properly. And when you pair it with American Amicable, I'd be hard pressed to find something you can't really do.
You're right. I mean, there's still going to be some that they're not going to take, but not many. And I also like the fact that they have other products, just like American Amicable does. Transamerica, they have the term products. Actually, they have very, very good term rates. I actually took a policy out with them about maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago because I saw their rates. They were really good, and it was simplified issue. I didn't have to worry about jumping through hoops to take out a policy. I didn't have to do the paramed or any of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I thought that really easy to write, really easy to get issued, and like I said, even if you're strictly focusing on final expense, every once in a while you'll run into some scenarios. I mean, heck, I got even neighbors of mine that need insurance that I have helped, and it's nice to kind of have just in my back pocket some different options that are available to help even like my warm market or just people that I know outside of just the typical working leads every day and focusing on the final expense clients.
Yeah,
so
there's situations where agents get thrown for a loop when they stumble their way into some type of a mortgage protection type situation. Well, sometimes just because they're not given a good presentation that's led into that part of the conversation. But in those situations where you find out that I really do truly need a term product, your core carrier probably has one. You don't need to pick up 6 or 7 new companies for this one-off situation. One of your main companies has what you're looking for. You just need to be aware of that when you need it.
Yeah, that's again, I mean, keeping it simple. You don't need 30 different companies that all have different life products. Just right here, we talk about just these two. I mean, heck, I mean, that's going to cover a lot. Like I said, in Transamerica, I mean, they go into like the multi millions in coverage amounts. So, like I said, and their rates are very, very good on their term products. Some of the best that I've seen. And again, the simplified issue up to certain ages. I mean, at my age, I was able to go up to 2 million without a paramed. And so pretty nice not having to worry about, like I said, all the extra steps to take out a policy. Moving on, I think the next carrier that we have here is Great Western. Now they are, I don't know if they're owned by or they go by Wellaby. Like when you go to their website now, their agent portal, they're Wellaby, or a Great Western company. But just a few things that I really like about Great Western. Well, they have a preferred rate, they have a graded, and then they also have a guaranteed issue, meaning that you can pretty much write everybody. So where American Amicable, Transamerica, they're not going to take some of those declines if someone's currently being treated for cancer, or like your Alzheimer's, someone's taken donepezil, things like that, where for sure that's going to be an automatic decline. Well, Great Western, they're going to take it, and their guaranteed issue rates are pretty decent. I mean, I've seen some companies where they offer the guaranteed issue, but the rates are just extremely high. I think their rates are still pretty decent. And Great Western, on all of their products, they don't have a height and weight chart. So let's just say you run into someone that has height and weight issues that is going to go to a modified with another company. They will take it. They don't even ask about it, as long as everything else checks out with the person's health. So they're not going to get checked, I guess you could say, due to their height and weight. So that's just another thing. And they also do accept credit, debit, direct express cards. I think they probably pay faster than any carrier out there. Like, I could write an application this morning and I might have a deposit in my account by like this afternoon. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're really, really fast with paying, which is nice. Some agents, they really, really depend on that. I mean, heck, if you're hard up for money, go write a Great Western policy, and by tomorrow morning there's going to be money in your bank account.
Yeah, don't write it on yourself or your cousin or some pretend person and commit fraud that you should go to jail for. But understand what companies pay quick, what companies don't. This can be really dependent on your contracting and your IMO. There's no one way to answer this question, but I do love that Great Western pays next day, and it just really helps increase cash flow and motivates you in some cases too. With Great Western, their e-application instant decision, either preferred stand or graded or GI, it's going to kind of walk you through whichever way it goes. It's very easy to follow along. It's very telesales friendly if necessary. And the whole back office website, very easy to understand. The staff, very easy to work with. I remember when they were just a guaranteed issue product with a really weird niche level benefit as an option, but they've gotten better and better over the years. And that shows me it's a carrier that's interested in doing good business, being in this market, and making improvements when possible.
Well, Chris, I just think that agents, when they have a lead, and well, a lead is an opportunity. When we're spending a lot of money on leads, it's like you want to do what you can to be able to write the business. And right there, just these three carriers that we talked about right there, there's no reason with just those three that you're not going to be able to write the business. There's no reason that you're going to have to walk away without a policy, without writing a piece of business. Just those three. You don't need 30 different companies. Just those three simple carriers is enough to be able to do what you need to do to help people get covered with good products. And like I said, not having to worry about spending all this money on leads and having to walk away without a sale.
Yeah, I heard somebody say too, kind of off track a little bit. They were afraid they couldn't leave an organization they were with. They wanted to make a change, but they knew they couldn't write those companies for 6 months. It doesn't mean you can't write other companies. Like there are so many options out there that we're showing you many of them now. If you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, well, I've never written Great Western before. Paid next day, I write this other GI company. Great Western, Adam, also pays renewals. There's a big popular GI product. It's a decent product. It's a great company. Doesn't pay renewals. Like I'm not in this business for charity work. I'm not in this business to answer calls 3 years later and service a policy for free. Great Western will continue to pay you as long as this person's on the books, which many of the other GI products don't.
Another thing too, Chris, I've seen some of these guaranteed issue carriers where it's like a full chargeback if the person dies within the first 2 years. So you could write, and a lot of the GIs, they'll pay as earned. They might not even advance you. Could you imagine you write somebody $150 a month getting paid as earned on it, and they died in like month 22? And you really didn't even feel like you made that much money because you're just getting paid monthly on it. But then you get hit with a chargeback for like 22 months of premium. I mean, that's pretty tough. I mean, who wants to have to deal with that? So
Yeah.
Great Western is just a standard chargeback. It's based off of the advance. And, once they're past that, then you're in the clear. So I think that's that's something pretty big too to think about compared to, I think people need to do their research a little bit with some of the different guaranteed issue carriers. So that sort of thing doesn't happen to them, where they get hit with a big charge back that they're not expecting just because the person had passed away within that 2-year window.
Yeah, Adam, let me mention too, I know it's a
Yeah.
different contract in some cases, but Wellaby, which is Great Western, also has a Medicare supplement, which used to be under Medico, but it's Wellaby now. It has some critical illness products. Like it does have a lot of additional options. You may not know this either, but there's a pre-need option. There's a pre-need contract you can have under Wellaby, which is Great Western, that gives you a 0 to 99 product guaranteed issue available in every state, almost every state, all under the same umbrella. So there's a lot of utility to this carrier. It's not just simply a GI only product.
Exactly. Like I said, and I mean, I've written some pretty good pieces of business with them. Not just focusing on the guaranteed issue. I wrote one not too long ago. The lady was, I don't know, 82 years old, something like that. And I forget, she was taking a medication where for some reason I didn't feel like it was going to go preferred with one carrier, and actually using insurance toolkits. It was just maybe kind of one of those little niches. I was able to get the lady approved right away, and she was very happy because other places that she had gone, she was not able to get that first day coverage. So yeah, I think they're a good company. Like I said, they're easy to work with. You get the instant decision as well, and all different payment methods accepted too, which makes it easy. Our second group of carriers: SBLI, Sika, and Prosperity. So I will start with the SBLI, and Chris will probably get into depth, maybe even a little bit further with them. But the reasons why I like using SBLI, I guess it would be kind of some of those little niches. COPD is day one coverage. So that's one that most companies, they're not going to cover that person for the first couple of years. They will accept COPD day one. I think Parkinson's too is another one that they will take day one, where maybe there are some others that aren't going to insure the people right away. If you were on the training last week, we talked about American Amicable and the Everest, funeral planning service. SBLI also has something very comparable. They call it the Sequoia Funeral Concierge Service. So just something that's going to add value to the sale over and above just your typical final expense policy, where you can give your client that mindset that they're doing more than just taking out another life insurance policy. This is one that's actually going to help them plan their entire funeral out that's going to be there from the beginning all the way past the time they pass away. And then these guys are going to step in and make things maybe a little bit easier on the family with negotiating prices and all that stuff. So, and they're really easy, instant decision as well. From what I found too, Chris, a lot of business I write there that sometimes, you're talking to a client and from what they tell you, it seems like it's good enough to go through preferred, but it's kind of like on the fence where you're like, I hope it's going to go preferred, but I just don't know. I'm going to write it preferred because based off of everything the person's telling me, they should be approved preferred, but it's just a little sticky. The approval rate there is very high. Very seldom do I come across a case that goes from a preferred to like either a modified or even a decline. I think it's happened to me a few times, but not many. So that's something. And I think I saw someone else mention that not too long ago, that like they were getting like a 90% approval rate with SBLIs. So I mean, that's pretty good if you have that sort of confidence, just to know that there's a real good chance that it's going to be approved as applied for, makes your job a heck of a lot easier as an agent.
Yeah. I think what's cool about these two carrier groups that we came up with is I got a challenge. If you're watching this right now and you can think of something that wouldn't fit in one of these two buckets of companies, post it down below and challenge me on it. See if you can prove me wrong. I came up with these two categories. Adam did as well, of companies you can pretty much put everything with. And if we forgot something, comment below and tell us. SBLI, 95% approval rate on applied. Made a lot of improvements recently with true Social Security billing, actually mailing out a policy, decent to understand back office website. You really can do a lot with that company.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, it was a product. It wasn't the product like designed for telesales, but I mean, it's really good for either. I mean, I write it all the time in the home, and it's easy to write, but I think it was kind of designed just a simplicity sort of thing. No phone interview or any of that stuff. Just simple, easy, and you really don't have to worry about your business not getting issued too often with them. And then Sika, we talk about Sika. One thing unfortunate for me, Sika is not available in Illinois. I'm hoping they will be soon. I had one actually last week that I think it would have been useful. I could have wrote some business. I tried writing the guy with one company, came back graded, then tried writing him with another one, came back graded. And he just happened to forget to tell me that he had congestive heart failure.
Oops.
And then that finally came up in the conversation. And I mean, I knew the guy's budget. I knew how much he could handle. And there was just he already had coverage. He was just kind of looking to add to what he had. And he just wasn't looking to spend a ton of money. And he wouldn't have done a policy where it was a high premium for a low face amount. But Sika, as long as you're compliant with taking your medications and you see a doctor on a regular basis, that congestive heart failure, they're going to cover him from the very first day. So that's something, Sika, I know Chris can probably even get into a little bit more detail about Sika than I can, but from what I've seen, I know a lot of agents enjoy working with them because same thing, easy to get business issued. I know for one thing, they don't run an RX. They don't run an MIB. I mean, you as the agent, you are basically like the underwriter of the policy. But like we talked about earlier, you don't want to abuse that either, because if you abuse it, well, the product will run away. So, you want to make sure you do stuff the right way. Honestly, the way that their underwriting goes, I don't even think you'd have to abuse it. I mean, if they're going to take congestive heart failure day one, as long as the people's compliant, if they're going to take someone who's 1 day cancer free, as long as they're compliant with seeing the doctor and things like that, I don't think an agent would have to try to abuse it. But yeah, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it's a great company. And if they're in a state that you sell in and you don't have them, you're being silly. Please let us know. We'll get you set up today with the company. Great commission levels, great product. You're missing business by not having this in your portfolio. And the way this product was designed, it was designed to replace other companies you have in your bag because you're carrying too many companies. Like, well, I only have this one because they don't check MIB, and I only have this one because they don't have a height and weight chart, and I only have this. You see, you can have these only have this one mentality and be stuffed full of companies you never use. Sika can come into your bag and replace multiple companies, and you do all the work. You're the underwriter. You don't have to worry about if it's going to be referred to underwriting, approved, declined. You're done once the application is done. It's a great product to have. And if you don't have it in a state that you're selling in right now, please let us know.
Now, Chris, would you say that their rates, I would assume, I mean, I played around with it a little bit in the toolkit. I mean, their rates are maybe a little bit higher than other companies. And that's where I probably wouldn't focus on them as like a lead carrier, because you're going to be able to get the person better cover somewhere else as long as they're healthy. But for those that have those health issues or those concerns that for sure is going to be a lot more expensive and they're not going to be able to get that first day coverage, I think it's a really good option.
Yeah, it's priced fairly for the risk that it's designed to take. It's not the cheapest. You don't need to be the cheapest every single time. It's not true. You don't need to only write companies with Social Security billing. That's a great. You should consider that, but you also shouldn't walk away from something just because it doesn't have it yet. And there's no tobacco rate. So in many cases, you'll find it to be super competitive in the tobacco category. The non-tobacco, it's average, but it's priced fairly for the risk it's designed to take.
Well, another thing then with the Sika, I think that if someone wants to keep things just extremely simple, maybe they don't want to write with more than one company. I don't think there would be a better option out there because they're going to take everybody 0 to 85. And then they have their standard rate. And then they also have the guaranteed issue. So like we were talking about earlier, if you have leads and you want to make sure that you're going to be able to write business off of that lead, you're not going to have to walk away from anything. So I think if you want to keep it extremely simple and focus on one company, there's your company.
Yeah, Adam, I had a situation before Christmas break, was in a home and the guy and the gal there were fine. They didn't need any more life insurance. They had actually perfect coverage. Their Medicare was good. There was just nothing I can do. And then all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there taking my time, not too much time, but like I'm not rushing through things. And the lady says to me, well, can you help my granddaughter? I'm like, well, if your granddaughter lives here, maybe I could help her. And she comes downstairs and she has sickle cell disease, very difficult to cover. She's about our age and was able to get first day coverage with Sika. Like that's incredible. So not only was I able to put her in a really amazing product, because I had this product, I didn't walk away from that house empty handed. I was able to plant a small flag there. I'll be able to go back later for new opportunities. Like that's something I wouldn't really have had anything I was able to do before.
Yeah. And again, I would recommend for those of you watching, go back to my YouTube channel and check out a few of the different videos that Chris and I did talking about some carriers that you may not have to get maybe even more in depth with each of these carriers. But yeah, there's a lot of in-depth stuff there talking about Sika and just the benefits and just some of these conditions. It's like very eye-opening to see that they'll actually insure these people first day coverage. It's like almost unheard of. So like I said, I guess only time will tell when it comes to how long that will last. Hopefully it's a long lasting thing. It really just depends on how many death claims that I guess you could say end up coming in. And again, everybody has to win, the company, the agents and the clients. So we just got to make sure we do things the right way. And hopefully that, hopefully it's a product that'll be around for a long time.
Yeah, they've got some exciting updates coming this year, new states, new enhancements. They're constantly improving the product. Hopefully they'll be in Illinois soon. Hopefully they'll be in Maryland soon. But so far, so good with Sika.
So you said you wrote one. You were out of state or something?
Oh, I was working in Pennsylvania. So they're in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
They're not in Maryland.
Okay. Yeah, I know they added a whole bunch of states like towards the end of last year, maybe like September or October. And then I noticed that like they're like in the works for Illinois, and it's just, I guess it's just not available yet. I'm hoping it is soon. I don't know. Sometimes I know some of these, sometimes it's just out of the insurance carrier's hands and they're just waiting on the state to approve them.
Yeah, it's
So,
really
you know,
yeah, a lot of politics involved in that, but they are trying, they will get there. And if you have them now, use them. If you don't, let us know.
and then finally, last carrier we're going to talk a little bit about today is Prosperity. And Chris, you probably know a lot more about Prosperity than I do. The only business I've written with them so far has been their term product, that Prime Term 100, which is basically like a guaranteed issue.
Mhm.
So it's been good for that. I mean, I actually wrote a lady not too long ago that had HIV, and I wrote her that Prime Term 100. I wrote her like a $30,000 policy. And she was thrilled because no one else is going to give her a $30,000 policy. Um, so, so that's what I've used them for. It's basically it's close. It's maybe not guaranteed, but it's close to guaranteed issue. And it's almost. I mean, they call it a term policy, but I mean, I kind of feel like it's really more. It's close to a whole life. I think it's a 20-year term, but
Mhm.
I mean, you can write it even at the older ages. So, I mean, and unfortunately, people that you're able to write on it that have some pretty significant health issues, I guess we have to wonder in the back of our mind, are they going to make it the 20 years? And if not, I mean, I would consider it more of like a whole life because it's going to last their whole life.
Yeah, if you're writing somebody on the prime term product, their mortality does not include the next 20 years, unfortunately. So it's a great product. Their standard new Vista final expense has a preferred, a graded, and a modified. Um, and they have a family freedom term, which is your bread and butter mortgage protection product. It's all instant decision. Leave the home knowing what you're going to get. True Social Security billing, nice marketing material, great home office staff, probably the easiest to understand back office, easiest process to contract. Like there's a lot that's been great about this company. I've been writing it since 2018, and they've done very little change over those years.
One thing I've noticed, just the correspondence between the home office with them is very easy. If you
Hmm.
need anything changed, let's say you have a client who maybe they changed their bank account, or maybe they want their payment to be taken out early. I had a lady, she said, well, I got my money already. I don't want to have to wait until the third because I have the money right now. Can I just pay it? All I got to do is send them an email. You shoot over an email to them, let them know what you want done, and they take care of it. So, that's one thing with them. At least, like I said, just that small amount of business that I've done with them so far, they do seem like they're pretty easy to work with.
Yeah, back 2018, I wrote AmAm, wrote Prosperity, and wrote maybe one other carrier, and was able to cover pretty much everybody. Like, there's a lot of really good to this product. It's been around longer than most. May have been forgotten a little bit lately, but you can get a lot done with them.
So then let's see, I'm going to go back here, just kind of breaking it down. So, I mean, right here, SBLI, Seek a Prosperity. SBLI, we got the probably the best rate. And then we also have a few of those different niches that we talked about that you're going to be able to get the first day coverage. Sika, who's going to take pretty much everybody. Prosperity, who is going to take pretty much everybody too. And you'll be able to get even those higher face amounts with Prosperity. And then also, like you mentioned, Chris, they do have those other products, the term policies that every once in a while we may run into that we need something for that. SBLI also, they have a term product. So right there, like I said, we have two different simple options that we went through today. And just with 3 carriers on each side there, it's enough. It's enough to get accomplished what you need to get accomplished. So
Well
then
said.
and then again, we're hiring Unity Life Group, my agency, always looking to help new agents. Well, whether you're new in the business, whether maybe you're looking to make a change, we have good options available for everybody: in-home sales, telesales, a lead program. You're never going to have to run out of people to see. That's really the name of the game. Even if you don't have a whole lot of money to get started, we can figure out ways to work with you on that. Weekly trainings, as you can see. I mean, we're all about agent engagement and keeping up with agents and working with agents. So, we have our training every Monday, and then Chris has his call. We work with Chris as well. He's got his call every day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern. Just kind of a great way to kind of get the day started. And again, I mean, I have a lot of agents who really utilize it, and it helps them get better. It makes them feel like they're a part of something. They don't just feel like they're out there left alone. I know there's different agencies out there where you want to get going, you want to get contracted. They send you contracts, and
that's it.
Go get them, Tiger. So, at least with this, we're going to work with you. We want this to be kind of like a long-lasting relationship, and our goal is for you to have that long-term successful career in the business. We have a lot of opportunities too to help agents build and grow high-level contracts available for those who already have a team. So a lot of good options available. Inquire over at unitylifegroup.com/careers, and I'd be happy to set up a call with you. For future trainings, go to adambersan.com, and you can plug in your information there and register. You will receive an email every week and of what the coming topics are. Also wanted to mention too that that we replay these trainings every Sunday night. So if you missed if you missed today, or if you missed last week, you can go back and you can watch every Sunday night on the Insurance Life and Everything in Between Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the Insurance Life and Everything in Between Facebook group, search for it on Facebook. Ask for an invite. We'll accept it. And then, like I said, every Sunday night, we're replaying these trainings along with tons of other valuable content that we do provide throughout the week to agents. Like I said, all just there to kind of help agents learn the business, get better at it. You ever have questions, you're not sure of something, there's people here that can help you and can answer those questions when you need the help.
Well
so I think that's about all I had for today. Additional training, your best bet, hop on YouTube, hop on my YouTube channel. There are short trainings, there's long form trainings. All of these trainings are on there. So you can go back and watch all of them. I mean, the more you watch, the better you get. And then only other thing I'd mention would be to also get on either Apple or Spotify and search Insurance Life and Everything in Between for our audio podcast. Something great to be listening to while you're out working during the day. Same thing, can pick up a lot of good tips, different ideas, just things that are going to help you to get better. And that's what it's there for. So thanks again, Chris. Appreciate your help and your knowledge with a lot of these different carriers, where I was so focused strictly on like one carrier at a time for a long time. It was a little bit of a learning curve for me. And I know that, your whole career, really, you've been kind of focused around a number of different carriers. So thanks again. You know a lot of, you have a good knowledge when it comes to all these different carriers, and appreciate your help. And then I hope everybody else, I hope y'all have a great week. Have a great week. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me, and look forward to seeing you same time, same place next Monday. Next Monday, we're going to be talking about persistency and some tips to help you to keep your business on the books. It's great to write the business. It's no fun when you have to write two pieces of business to get paid on one, because you have a chargeback that you got to pay back as well. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. We'll talk to you about that then.
Take care.
All right.